for being here today. It's great to be with students, business leaders, and teachers to talk about careers in construction and the trades. As you know, this is where I come from. And it's not just the construction world, but right here is Spalding. This is where I developed my passion for the trades, working with my hands, designing and building things. When I went to school here, I took college prep classes in the morning and then would go to the machine trades program in the afternoon. And I've carried the lessons learned here with me my entire life. After graduating from Spalding, I went on to UVM, where I studied to be a tech ed teacher and received my teaching certification. But in the end, I decided to go into business instead, where I co-owned a construction business for about 35 years. As governor, I've tried to make promoting the trades and careers in construction a top priority, because it's so important to all of us. Whether it's building homes or bridges, repairing vehicles or equipment, doing the work of electricians, plumbers, or more, these are all good paying, needed jobs, and we need to inspire more to take this path. So I want to thank the Associated General Contractors and the Associated Builders and Contractors who are with us today, as well as the employers they represent, for all the work they're doing to recruit and retain talent, train the workforce, and do the important work of keeping employees safe on the job site. And with all the disruptions that might come in the years ahead with new technology and artificial intelligence, I can guarantee you this: demand for hands-on jobs in construction will not go away. Some of you may have heard me talk about the need to end the stigma around the trades and CTE. For far too long, we've made going to a 4-year college and getting a degree as the only measure of success. We emphasize that doing so will lead to the best career opportunities. But that's not exactly true. For some, it could be the right path, and if that's what they want to do, they should. But some of the most successful people I know come from the trades and didn't go to college. We need society to recognize that having a CDL is just as important as having a PhD. And while we're breaking down stigmas, there's another one we need to address. And that's the notion that this path and these jobs are just for men. That couldn't be further from the truth. We need to focus our efforts on making sure women know just how lucrative and rewarding these opportunities are. And that work needs to start right here in our schools. Central Vermont Career Center is working hard on this, and I appreciate their efforts. I also want to acknowledge and thank Vermont Works for Women, who we'll hear from in a few minutes, Ronnie, and for all the great work they're doing. Over the past several years, we've been working to promote and invest in CTE, as well as workforce development initiatives like apprenticeships, which Secretary Boucher and Commissioner Harrington will talk about in a few minutes. But before turning it over, my message to the students in this room is simple. Keep it up. Follow through. Whether this is the path you end up following in the future or not, just being here and broadening your horizons will open up so much more potential for you in the future. You might not have had this experience if you hadn't participated in CTE, which is why it's so important. And I guarantee you because I've experienced this, what you learn here will follow you for the rest of your life in a positive way. So with that, I'll turn it over to Secretary Boucher to learn more about apprenticeships.
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. I am so happy to be here to talk about the power of CTE for our students in Vermont, and particularly the power of CTE in the trades. As the Governor stated, it is so important that Vermont has people trained in skilled trades. The jobs are plentiful, the work can be rewarding, for people who enjoy hands-on projects and concrete, tangible materials to work with. And given the sheer need that we have for folks to do this work, the pay has never been better. So to students and families, there's never been a better time than now to think about participating in a CTE program to explore options, as the governor just noted, to enroll in a trades program officially, or to complete an apprenticeship. We have a critical housing shortage in Vermont, and it's going to take both an all-hands-on-deck approach coupled with creative strategic investments to solve this challenge. CTE programs are and should continue to be a critical resource for trades training and the state's broader workforce concerns. I want to provide some information on how we're doing in terms of CTE participation and enrollment in Vermont. First, over time, we've seen more and more eligible high school students participate in CTE exploration and programming. More than a quarter to upwards of a third of eligible high school students participate each year. This is wonderful. But what would it look like if all students have an opportunity to explore and participate in some type of CTE experience? That is a goal that we should all get behind and think creatively about how to implement. We know that many centers have waiting lists and reduced capacity to serve all students who are interested. We need to incorporate the need to expand and perhaps integrate better with sending high schools who have space as we move forward with robust CT options for students. Vermont also continues to see more and more students opt in fully for a CTE program each year. And these students are deemed concentrators in our federal Perkins law, which they might not even know, but that's how state folks talk about them. If we dig in a bit further about who is actually fully enrolling in our CTE programs, specifically into who participates and enrolls in the trades, the picture's a little less rosy, and I wanted to be sure that I mentioned that today. So nationally, when we look at trades career clusters like construction, manufacturing, transportation, about 80 to 85% of students enrolled in these programs are men or young men. So only about 15 to 20% of students, therefore, enrolled in these trades identify as female. In Vermont, it's even worse. Our data show that we lag about 10% behind these national trends, with less than 10% of students enrolled in construction, manufacturing, and transportation identifying as young women. For participation in CTE, again, these are students who are just trying it out. The percentage of Vermont young women participating in these trades clusters is slightly better, at about 11 to 13% for construction and manufacturing. So in essence, the national data show that we're not doing very well in getting young women interested in and participating in trades programs, and we have even more work to do in Vermont. And we're very committed to this. I will say my understanding is that our state CTE director is currently at a training or a conference right now, actually just on this issue, and working with several CTE directors to figure out how best to entice women into the trades and other what we call non-traditional career pathways. I want to acknowledge Jody Emerson here at Central Vermont Career Center for the work she is doing not only to model career leadership to young women through her own professional trajectory, but for stepping up to do all she and her team can to advance CTE and opportunities for students. It's truly wonderful to see strong leadership by women at CTE centers, the power of role models for women in technical fields, perhaps most importantly in the trades, given the data that I just reviewed, simply cannot be overstated. CVCC is always a fantastic partner in new initiatives, including most recently agreeing to take on a new project the state offered, which will involve refurbishing mobile homes that were flooded this summer. And this will offer students and hopefully young women opportunities to engage in renewable construction work and training, and to have hands-on experience with aspects of construction, electrical work, and plumbing that they might not have otherwise encountered through traditional projects, given the unique nature of these flooded properties. This is a great example of how students, and especially young women, can engage in teamwork, service to one's community, and entrepreneurial endeavors within the trades. I believe we're also going to hear about some other great programs focusing on women in hands-on training programs later in the press conference. But for now, I'll hand the mic off to Commissioner Harrington, who will tell us about some important information regarding work at the Department of Labor. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor. We're here today to highlight the importance of technical education and careers in the trades and the impact they have on Vermont's future success. And but what better way to do this than during Career and Construction Month? That said, for those of us who work for the governor and know the governor, I'm pretty sure every day and every month is Career and Construction Month. Also, I want to give a special thanks to the Career Center for hosting us today. It's great to see the students here exploring possible career paths and building their skills. And as the governor has stressed time and time again, Vermont has been battling a demographics crisis for decades now. There just aren't enough people in our communities, kids in our schools, or skilled workers for our jobs. But it was the pandemic that put a fine point on this problem and moved it from a small state issue to a global issue. For anyone who has been looking to make repairs to their home, finally upgrade that kitchen of theirs, or for a business that's looking to expand operations, the shortage of qualified trade workers is no surprise to any of us. This summer's storm did not help matters. If nothing else, the July flood recovery underscored how important the construction industry really is and the occupations that make up that sector, like engineers and builders, carpenters, heavy machine operators, CDL drivers, electricians, plumbers, and mechanics, and many more. In 2022, construction accounted for about 1 out of every 10 businesses in Vermont, about 10%, and 1 out of every 20 jobs. These companies paid out an average wage of roughly $61,000 a year, exceeding the statewide average wage for all for wages by about 3%. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the National Association of Women in Construction, women fill only about 10% of those jobs in the construction industry, which is probably not surprising for any of us. It wasn't for me. This is not a new issue in the industry, but there is room for every person in this economy, including the trades. And regardless of how a person identifies, there's a space for them. And there are employers out there willing to train people who have little to no experience and pay them while they learn. I'm happy to be here today to celebrate careers in construction and the tradespeople that make it all happen, especially those that defy the odds and challenge the stereotypes. There is great work being done across the state to expose people of all backgrounds to these amazing professions. We're joined here today by Vermont Works for Women and a couple of the young tradespeople in the making, not just to bring attention to these amazing careers, but to challenge the notion that the construction industry is solely for men. I had the pleasure of attending the Vermont Works for Women Women Can Do event earlier this month in Randolph, and I cannot tell you how amazing it was to see over 400 young people from across the state exploring careers in construction, aerospace, robotics, electronics, forestry, heavy machinery, and more. But it's more than just having women in the trades. It's about shattering age-old stereotypes about what women can or can't do. By supporting women and other diverse populations to land these jobs in construction, and by challenging long-held personal and professional stereotypes, we are fostering a more inclusive workforce, one that acknowledges that a woman's place is wherever she wants to be, with equal pay for equal work, and one that recognizes the important role each person plays in our economy. To highlight just one occupation in the industry, the Department of Labor estimates that there will be nearly 5,000 openings in the carpentry occupation over the next 10 years, meaning we need to find 500 new carpenters every year just to keep up. The message couldn't be any clearer. To women considering a career change or a career path in construction, Vermont needs you. We need you and other talented and driven individuals to help build not only the Vermont we need today, but the Vermont we want for the future. By staying and working right here in Vermont, you can make a difference in your life, your family, your community, and your state. This is work that matters. It's also important to point out that there are about 3,000 women-owned businesses in Vermont. However, Only 66 of those are in the trades and manufacturing. So there is significant opportunity for growth all around the state. These are good jobs and great careers and afford people the opportunity to grow within the industry. Maybe even become an entrepreneur and start your own construction business, which the governor knows a little something about. Vermont is a tight-knit community. We stand by our neighbors, cheer on their successes, and support them in times of need. Let's extend that same community spirit to women and all students pursuing training and education in careers in non-traditional fields. On behalf of the Department of Labor and the businesses and communities we serve, thank you for making sure your voice is heard, and for choosing to be here today, and for ensuring that women, girls, and gender-expansive individuals are included in the economy and career advancement opportunities in and across Vermont. It's now my true pleasure to introduce Ronnie Basden from Vermont Works for Women. Ronnie?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Ronnie Basden, the Executive Director at Vermont Works for Women. I am proud to stand here today with Governor Scott, our Vermont state agencies, necessary employers, and critical programs that are all working to address our increasing needs and our labor challenges. Women are a critical part of our workforce and significant contributors to the growth of our communities. Yet the fact remains that women are underrepresented in Vermont's fastest growing, highest need fields. Fields such as construction, electrical, weatherization, flood recovery, and infrastructure development. Talking about and diversifying our construction industry is no longer just an opportunity, it is now a necessity. We know that today, Vermont women have a 79.5% employment participation rate that very closely matches Vermont men at 81.9%. But the fact also remains that women still only represent 4.1% of shovel-ready construction careers. The opportunity is there to empower, upskill, and connect women directly to these motivating careers today, while also investing in the potential skills of our youth. Vermont Works for Women has been working since 1987 to raise awareness about careers opportunities, provide hard skills training programming, and connect women and youth to motivating employers and ongoing education. Our Trailblazers Trades Training Program, geared towards women and gender-expansive individuals, runs from Barre to Brattleboro, Rutland to Burlington, and over to Newport. Our Trailblazers pre-apprenticeship training program pairs the hard skills training necessary to be job ready with the support and the empowerment to retain and thrive within these careers. We partner directly with employers and our industries here in Vermont to ensure that these work environments are family sustaining and motivating. But we also need to recognize the potential and the opportunities in our Vermont youth. At Vermont Works for Women, we work to expose middle and high school girls to career pathways, training opportunities, and partner with them to dismantle the stereotypes around entering trade certification work or construction careers for women. Today, we sit at Central Valley Career and Tech Center that provides an incredible opportunity for certification, skills, and education. But we also recognize that we need to increase our female enrollment in these critical programs across state tech centers and build in representation that naturally attracts the carpenters, the welders, and the workers that we need across our state. Increasing access to construction careers and diversifying our industries only happens in collaboration. We are incredibly proud to partner with our Vermont state agencies to ensure that there is access to quality programming for all Vermonters who are interested. At Vermont Works for Women, we work closely with our community collaborative Serve, Learn, and Earn partners, Vermont Youth Conservation Corps, Audubon Vermont, and Resource Vermont, to provide paid service and training opportunities in a collaborative, problem-solving approach to workforce challenges. Construction careers can provide a significant opportunity and tremendous benefits, but there is work to be done to ensure that women are entering these fields, that we are retaining their critical talent, and that we are working together to create a thriving and diverse construction workforce for Vermont. I'm incredibly proud to be joined tonight by a Trailblazers graduate who can best speak to these goals. The demand for trades training programming is increasing across our state, and today, Vermont Works for Women and our Trailblazers program has graduated 132 women since just 2019, and we are hosting our largest cohort ever in Rutland. I am very proud to introduce our 2022 Trailblazers graduate and tradeswoman, Tiffany Marquez.
Thank you, Ronnie. So my name is Tiffany Marquez. I currently work for Montclair Construction, and I've been with them since the end of last year. I really do thank Vermont Works for Women for this change of mind, because it was a career change. I did not have a set path that was meant for me or made for me as a female. I did actually grow up around contractors and builders and engineers and tradespeople in general, but I was actually never encouraged to pursue these careers, even though I was so interested in them. So regardless of that, I still pursued with this interest, and here I am, speaking before you all, and I really do thank the support, the people that really did all the footwork for me to get to this point. It was not easy, especially facing, I'm going to be in male-dominated areas of work, and knowing and being curious to know if these companies are actually going to be open to having female workers in general. So thank you, Vermont Works for Women, as well as Resource. They both really did encourage and do the work that laid that path for me to feel welcomed, happy, and I honestly can say that I do wake up every day, knowing that I work building homes and just remodeling and all sorts of really awesome things, and I do encourage others who are interested to follow this path. It is fulfilling. I literally I'm so proud of even my colleagues and coworkers who are so forthcoming with their knowledge and just willing to be open and sharing as much as they can with me. So, break those barriers, continue going, and here next, I'm introducing Ella Townsend, who is a student from CCBC.
Thank you. I'm Ella. I'm from CBCC. I've always known about tech, but I had never really thought that I wanted to be a part of it. And if you had asked me last year, do you want to build for the rest of your life, I would have said no. I slowly started to learn about tech last year, and I seemed really interested, so I went to the shadow days for building trades, and I really enjoyed it. It was hands-on, and it was kind of like a no-brainer for me, because I don't learn well being stuck in a classroom all day. I like hands-on work. My favorite part about tech is knowing that I'm waking up and coming into my family. I love my class. They're like my family. And we all get along very well. I would totally recommend this program to anybody that likes construction work. I would like to carry this on for the rest of my life and go into college for construction management or business management. Being a woman in this trade makes me feel powerful. It makes me feel good about myself. I work hard for what I do. And that's it. Thank you. I will pass this on to Richard Wabi.
Governor, Phil, it was just 50 years ago that we were running up and down the hallways here at the Industrial Arts Center, I think it was. And who'd have imagined where that journey would have taken either one of us? I think it's time to pass that baton to the next generation. And with your understanding, I would like to introduce Ben Osha from AGC, who is our new workforce development assistant. Ben, would you come forward?
Thank you all for being here as we join other states, other associations across the country in recognizing Careers in Construction Month. But at the Associated General Contractors of Vermont, we believe a career in construction should be celebrated every month. One of the missions we are most proud of at AGCVT is seeing the outcomes of young women and men who choose the trades as their career path. Those outcomes include great incomes with benefits that allow them to grow great families, own homes, great lifestyles, and participation in our community at large. We know we have a tremendous need in this state for people working in the trades. We also know that for our program to be successful, it must include advocacy, elevation, engagement, and promotion. As the longest standing Vermont Construction Association, we have a rich history of advocating and delivering programs to help people get into the trades and keeping it inclusive for all. Programs such as the new CTE Experimental Learning Program that funds hands-on projects for students, a grant program to supply employers with women-specific personal protective equipment, and Earn While You Learn programs. We have sought to elevate the construction workforce by creating new leaders through professional training and creating a roadmap, a pathway to success. That's how people go from carrying their first shovel to running their own crew and oftentimes becoming an owner of a company themselves. By regularly engaging with workers, both new and experienced, we learn ways to improve systems within the workforce that will help attract more talent. Figuring out what motivates and drives talent is the key to our mission. Because they are what are driving our industry today and for the future, finally, it's critical that we promote the industry and its impact on the world around us. These young women and men are at the front lines of our infrastructure, clean energy production, health and safety systems, transportation, our homes, and they are also responsible for the important work on climate change resiliency. This association has the honor of growing the workforce with our industry partners both here at CVCC and across the states at the CTEs and other various schools. And I'd like to introduce Josh from AGC.
For those in the industry, if you've got a name like Ben Osha, you're destined to work in construction. My name is Josh Reap. I'm the president and CEO of Associated Builders and Contractors of the New Hampshire Vermont chapter. And I'm here today to express support for everything that we're talking about, but also to just raise awareness of what the industry provides as an opportunity. And we've heard a lot of great things about trying to get more women engaged in construction. And one thing I'd like to point out is that there's a statistical fact that there is no pay disparity in construction. Construction is leading the charge in terms of providing equal an opportunity for all that want to come and work in construction. And we need to do more to get more women involved in construction. So I'm great that there's really great work being done by Ronnie and others to help increase that message. And I just want to say to all the people that are out there that may work in construction as someone who's been on the job for 20, 30 years, talk to your daughters, talk to your sisters, the women in your lives about the opportunity that it's provided you and that there's great opportunity with the construction as well. I think we could do a lot more to try to promote more of those career opportunities that there are. And one of the great things we're very proud of here with the Associated Builders and Contractors is we are providing a great opportunity and pathway to career development for carpentry. We have a construction career apprenticeship program. We're very pleased that we have many employers here today that are participants with that program. This is an opportunity to help people get into construction that may have come out of the CT Center and looking for advanced training that an employer provides training for. It's a great program because the employers pay for it. The employers are providing opportunity for people to go to work and earn while they learn. And we've got a great partner with the state of Vermont Department of Labor who has helped us set up this program. We're very thankful to the commissioner, secretary, and everyone else that's been very helpful to help launch that program. And I'm very pleased to say that we have our second cohort going in this fall. We have a lot of employers that have been engaged with that. We have a growing number of employers who are seeing the benefits and opportunities that come from apprenticeship pathways. And we encourage more people to explore them and get involved with them. And I got to say too, for all the women behind us who are building this awesome setup here in the CTE, great work. And there's employers in the room that would love to talk with you and perhaps offer you an opportunity to maybe even be hired on the spot. I know we got Dan and Johnny from HP Cummings and REARC respectively here. I'm sure they'd be happy to talk with you. They're very proud of you guys to see the work that you're doing here. And lastly, I just want to say it's an honor to be here and to represent the industry and help champion. We partner with many of the other people that have spoken with you already today. And to help us bring it home today, I just want to say thank you again. And Governor, would you like to bring it home for us?
Well, thank you all very much. And you've heard a lot today. I'm sure you have lots of questions for some of our youth here in particular today. And so now we'll open up to questions. I did tell Ella that she'd be answering all the tough questions you might have, so I'm going to refer to her when they come along.
Governor, as you probably know, where you live in Vermont and which CTE center is near you, it really depends on, the quality and the course offering can really differ. At the end of the last legislative session, there was a report that was put forward from some consultants, recommending changes to CTE to make it more equitable. And maybe Secretary Boucher can weigh in, but what do you see that needs to happen on the statewide level to make sure that there is equal opportunity statewide?
Yeah, there does need to be a balance amongst educational facilities. CTEs were developed, they were vocational schools back 50, 60 years ago. They were 100% funded by the federal government. And that has since lapsed in some respects, but we need to recognize that they need to be on the same level as the traditional educational facilities, and because it's a great career path. And when I was in school, when you became a junior in high school, you had to make a choice, right? You're either going to college or you're going to vocational school, and I chose both. I wanted to go to college, but I also knew that I learned better with my hands. I loved that part of the problem solving, building things, creating things. So I did both. And I think that that's what we should be offering kids today, a path forward where they can get excited about what they want to do in life, because there's all kinds of opportunity out there today, especially in Vermont, where we have this aging demographic, and we need more people in the workforce. We need to attract more people, and we can do that through education. So I'm all in favor of trying to find opportunities for us to get on a level playing field with CTEs and more traditional high schools. Secretary Boucher.
Sure, thanks, Governor. It's a great question. Just to echo a bit of what the governor said, yes, we do have significant inequities across the state in terms of both the physical facilities structures that you talked about, and then also in terms of what programs are available. Our CTE centers are also across the board experiencing some significant labor shortages in terms of their teachers, as is our broader PK-12 education system. I think there's a few. The report is fantastic in my view and has a lot of great recommendations for us to consider from the state level. I think it's time we have to actually solve the funding of CTE, which has long been a challenge and a problem. We will be putting forth some ideas about what that might look like to the legislature. I also think that there's a corollary task force that's going on right now that focuses on a long dormant state school construction aid program, And I think it's going to be really critical that we keep the focus on not just, as the governor alluded to, our K-12 bricks and mortar, but also our CTE centers, because just as our schools have experienced lots of deferred maintenance and some real pressing challenges in terms of basic functioning, our CTE centers, many of them are in that state as well. Finally, I think another piece I would say before finally is I think we have to really do some creative thinking around transportation for students. We do fund some transportation from the state for students to access our programs, but we do, I think, need to think a little bit outside the box in terms of that. Because the solutions that I'm talking about are not going to happen tomorrow, and so we're going to need some kind of immediate solutions to really get on that equity piece and make sure that we are providing relatively equal experiences for students to the extent that we can. The other thing I would say about that is that there's another inequity as well, which is exposure to CTE programs. I think the best way to get students excited about CTE is to start early with them. So we have some great examples in some of our CTEs having really robust partnerships with middle schools and high schools where they actually bring younger students, 5th and 6th graders, into the CTE centers, set up some kiosks and interesting hands-on experiences for these littles, if you will, to really get them excited about what CTE could be and really start that seed early on in their minds of what not only the educational experience might be like, but what a potential career is like in those fields. And I think we can do a better job of helping our local entities from the state perspective, helping our local entities kind of bridge that gap between how do you actually get middle school students hooked up with CTE centers. There's a variety of different models that can be deployed.
And I guess the follow-up, that report also called for bringing, in part, bringing the CTEs into the statewide education fund. Is that something that the administration would support?
Into the education fund?
Yes, funding them through the ed fund.
Well, they are funded through the ed fund. It's just a very complicated model right now. So there's a portion that goes directly to the LEAs for CTE, and then there's a very complicated tuitioning from the CTE centers back to the LEAs, the school districts. But it's still coming from the ed fund, so I want to clarify that. But it is very complicated, and I think the time is now to actually really simplify that. And there's a whole host of downstream challenges with that approach in terms of pressures on the overall system, and I think that we have some creative ways to actually really make it work.
To address some of those challenges that you're talking about, how do you feel about a more uniform governance structure, like having a statewide district with just centers?
Yeah, I think this administration, my predecessor opposed that and opposed even going a step further, a unified district for the whole K-12 system. I think there will be a lot more work to actually focus on in terms of what is the best governance structure, because we do have 3 different types of governance structures. In my view, it makes sense for us to start actually with the funding first, and then a quick follow-up would be the governance structure. But I'm looking forward to talking with that, with the legislature about their views on that as well.
So you don't feel like that governing structure can help advocate for that funding and be easier for you guys?
I think they're 2 very related, very complicated aspects. And so I think we need to start kind of with either the funding or the governance first, and then make sure they meld together at the end of the day.
Looking at the revenue numbers for the first quarter, I don't know if the flood caused a little bit of a decline in some of them or not, or if there's going to be ongoing decline in revenue as you put your budget together. And I assume the money flowing from the federal government over the last few years has diminished somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, we've received a lot of funding from the federal government, and that goes down through our cash reserves as well. We have a lot of cash, but I think it is going to diminish. I think our revenue is going to diminish over time, and that's why I keep warning the legislature that this isn't going to continue. The good times aren't going to continue. So we have to be realistic about our budgets in the upcoming session, so that we make sure that we don't become more unaffordable here in Vermont, that we're not raising taxes. We're a high tax state, and it's difficult for some to maintain a lifestyle here, live here. There are choices throughout the country, and we want to make sure that the choices here in Vermont. So we have to be equitable with them and at least be competitive. And right now we're out of balance. So yeah, I'm concerned about the revenues, but we have to live within our means.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have another question.
I was actually also going to ask about this issue. In particular, the Meals and Rooms revenues are down, the gas tax is down. Do you see a correlation between this and the floods, and has there been a drop in tourism?
Yeah, there could be a correlation there with the flooding. We don't know at this point. I think we have to let it play out just a little bit longer. It's not gloom and doom. We had a robust fall, I believe, and just traveling around the state, especially coming back from up north, coming through Stowe, for instance, this fall. It was difficult to get through. There was actually, traffic jams. They're backing back up on the interstate on 89. So I think we'll find that to be leveling out some, but inflation has taken over. We're paying more for almost everything, and so we're just going to have to be realistic in this budget cycle about how we pay for things, what we need, and what we want, and differentiate between the two.
You signed a contract, not you, if you did, with for Civic for extension of the prison in Barre, Mississippi. That is a long way from Vermont, roughly now. Look it up, 1,420 miles from where we are today, 22-hour drive. I have a friend who's there, whom I visited in Kentucky and Pennsylvania and Mississippi. But his parents, he's there now 20 years, his parents have never made a visit to him at any of these prisons. There is a bus that goes back and forth to bring prisoners up to be released, or taken down there, as well as going up to court. Is there some way to somehow circulate prisoners back to see their parents or siblings once in 22 years?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think I've said this before, if we could house all the offenders here in Vermont, that should be our goal. But we've offered the legislature a couple of paths forward in terms of upgrading some of our facilities so that we can accommodate that, and that has been well met at this point in time. So we have a capacity issue, and we just need to do what we have to do to make sure that those who are incarcerated have a place to go, and in this case, we have to send some out of state, but I would much prefer having everyone back in the state.
Well, I'm not criticizing the process of the prison, just the process of not allowing prisoners to circulate back into the Vermont located prisons so that they can remain in touch with their parents.
Yeah, it's more, and I'd be happy to have our Commissioner of the Department of Corrections address this, because it's more complicated than that. Different programming needs for different offenders, and some need more than others, and determines where they're housed. So it's difficult, but at the same time, yeah, if we could bring them back, that's what we should do. And if we could rotate, I'm sure that they'll look at that, but he could probably answer that question better.
Question about the dams, the flood control dams. When they were originally built, they were the flood control dams, even though they were proposed by Governor Reagan and Franklin Roosevelt to build. But particularly Waterbury, but also not Eastbury, has become a recreational lake. If the water levels could have, I don't know if I call this or dam construction person, but if the water levels could have been maintained at a lower level, would there have been less damage by this approach?
I'm not sure if there'd be less damage, but I think you make a good point, something that I thought about as well. Some of these Wrightsville Dam, Waterbury Dam, and they're great great assets in some respects, but for flood control, if they were down a little bit further, we would have more capacity. We wouldn't have to be concerned during a storm of the magnitude we had back in July, where we were worried about whether we were going to crest in the Wrightsville Dam in particular.
And then down the spillway in Waterbury, but
yeah, but I think we're more concerned about Wrightsville at that point in time. There was more capacity at Waterbury, and we weren't as concerned. But Wrightsville was a concern. You know, it was a matter of inches in some respects. But then it would have just flowed over at that point over the spillway. But we're looking into that. I know Secretary Moore and her team are looking for the hydrologists and so forth to determine what should we do, can we increase the capacity, and what would that look like. So we're doing studies on that right now.
and do you have any control over the Marshfield Dam?
I believe that's under FERC maybe, but I'm not positive of that.
Governor, speaking of flooding and rebuilding, I understand last night you and Chief Recovery Officer Barnum submitted plans to redevelop the north side of Barre. Can you speak a little bit about what you envision that proposal looking like and the cost back?
Yeah, I want to start off by saying this was a vision. This was a concept. You know, as most people know, I'm from Barre. I know the region fairly well. And we know, and this has nothing to do with me being from here, but Barre in particular was hit tremendously hard. When you look at the demolition, the debris as a result of all the damage from the July 5th flooding and beyond, Barre in particular was hit harder than any other entity, per capita or otherwise. 2.5 times the amount of debris was collected in Barre as opposed to Montpelier. And Montpelier, we saw visually how much area was impacted there. A tremendous hit to the downtown. But 2.5 times more here in Barre, in particular some of the homes. So when you look at the north end, coming into Barre from Montpelier, you can see visually the damage to the homes. So I looked at that and thought we can do something. I told my team we need to think big. We need to think about something that we can present to our congressional delegation. I've spoken to Senator Sanders, Senator Welch, Senator Ballant about this concept. We've kicked it around some, and because of the supplemental that was included in the ongoing resolution, there's additional funding in that for these types of FEMA-funded projects. So there's some capacity there, but we have to bring forward a proposal. So the first step, again, when I looked at it, I sketched something out on paper, something that I would envision to create more housing, not just replace the housing that would be displaced, but create more housing, maybe 2 to 3 times as much as was impacted, and put that on higher ground in different ways, all different types of housing, high-rise, condos, duplexes, maybe even move some of the homes there on the new foundations in different areas up in elevation. So, in a green space, that was important to me as a gateway into Barre. It was important visually because as you come up through and you see you see a lot of the history. You see what was the Jones Brothers shed, which is now the Granite Museum. There on the right, that's part of the entry into Barre. And then, if we could expand upon that, have some green space and some housing in the North Barre School up on the top of the hill and so forth, it would be an economic driver, welcoming more people into Barre and create the housing that we need and provide for mitigation. Allow the water to flow. We need more storage capacity in the future. We're not going to be able to stop the water. We have to do something to accept it in different ways so it doesn't do the damage that it did in this last storm, because it will happen again. We're seeing it more and more frequently. So that's the vision. was something that I wanted to have put on paper. Black River Design did the work there, gave us, some sort of a concept that people could at least look at, react to. And we don't want to force anyone to do anything in this capacity. We don't want to force anyone out of their homes. We want to replace homes as needed. But this is a big project. It would be, tens of millions, if not over $100 million in this back of the napkin type of projection that I had done. But it's a big deal, and it'd be, now we want to present it to the city council so that they could react to it, and if they're favorable, would like to move forward with at least in considering this, then we'll have to have focus groups with the neighborhood and people of Barre to see what they want as well. I mean, this has to be something we all work on together, but at the same time, we need to give something to the congressional delegation so they can go to work to see if we can get the funding for it. So that's going to be essential to moving forward.
Do you think congressional earmarks could play a role in securing this funding?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's going to be everything because I think there was in this ongoing resolution, I think they'd asked for $6 billion, which is what was needed for FEMA-related projects last year, and they included $16 billion. So there's some capacity there, and we're hoping that we can be at the front of the line for a project of this magnitude. Because again, we want to do something big. We all have to be on the same page somewhat, and then present it to the congressional delegation so that they can do the work to try and get some earmarks for Vermont. There'll be a lot of buyouts and then building and so forth. It'll be a multi-year project, but it's exciting in some respects.
I think it was political reported on Twitter that former Senator Leahy was down in D.C. today. Do you know if he's getting his brains about this matter?
I don't think they can do anything for a couple of years once they retire. I think that's an agreement. They can't lobby for any particular project, but I know he understands the need. He's been delivering on those needs for decades, and with his seniority, he delivered in a lot of respects. So we miss him in a lot of ways. As chair of the Appropriations Committee as well, but I'm sure he'll do whatever he can to help us shepherd this through.
Do you have any data on the effective population in Vermont? When the hotels are full, second homes are full, campgrounds are full, or weekend, are we over 1 million?
I don't know. I'm sure we have data, yeah, and we've been collecting data because we have an incredible housing need, as you know, here in the state. Our demographics are shifting. We all know. I mean, we started 7 years ago sounding an alarm about we need more housing, and we're not catching up very quick. So we're going to have to do everything we can because it's all connected. If we don't have the housing, we're not going to be able to welcome people into the state because we need more people here.
So housing is going to be purposed by Airbnb.
Sure, and we profit from that as well, right? I mean, that's part of the economy as well. So we need to find the balance. We need to bring more people in, and we need to have decent affordable housing for them when they arrive.
So I'd like to get back to the topic. I know it was mentioned earlier, there's 500 properties. I believe what we discussed multiplying this by 5 times, we need to be what I guess plans, because that's a pretty lofty goal, which I like.
Yeah, well, again, the question is about how do we get from 100 to 500, right? And unfortunately, part of that is we need bodies, we need people, and we have this somewhat stagnant population here in Vermont. We've been talking about that a lot over the last 7 years. In fact, that's why I ran to begin with. And you can see that we're aging out. Our demographics we're aging. We're not bringing more youth in, and that leads to workforce issues and everything else. And again, we need to do everything we can to bring more people into the state. A lot of that is I believe, with legal immigration. We need more people. We need them now. And we need, again, one of the purposes here today was to highlight the fact that these jobs are available not just to young men, but to young women as well. And we've seen and heard from them. We need young women to consider this an option, so that we can make sure that we're fulfilling the need. But that in itself isn't going to do it. But everything we can throw at this is going to be important, because we have workforce challenges. And again, how do we satisfy that? And it's not one single answer, it's a multitude of answers in order for us to get there.
I could, Tom wants from resource for this act, that I think the CTE on the only part of the capacity. There's other parts where we are training adults through the mental program, through the youthful program, and etc. So that's an additional part of that capacity.
Multiple ways of getting there, but again, I think we need more people to come into our. I mean, look at Barre. When I grew up here, we were the third largest city in the state at that point in time. We had around 10,000 people. Today it's 8,500. So we have eroded in terms of population here, and that was due to many different factors. But that's the thing. Same way with Rutland as well. So there is opportunity here. We just have to seize the moment and make it happen.
Governor, my wife has actually expressed frustrations over not having clothes that fit her in this industry, and it seems like that's a niche and a void that is yet to be filled. I wonder if there's any emphasis, or if anyone's reaching out to these manufacturers to make this industry more welcoming to women, if there's more accessible gear and clothes that's more suited towards them.
Yeah, I hadn't anticipated that, but it's a great point. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and businesses want to make money. And if there's a market for that, I'm sure they'd seize upon it. Maybe they just don't realize, but obviously we should do everything we can to make sure that they're accommodating that. And again, I think there's some profit in it for them as well. Thank you all very much.